Howdy, guys. Jimmy Song here. Welcome to another episode of Bitcoin Tech Talk, where we talk all about the newsletter that I send every Monday and also some tweets that I have and the stories that are going around in crypto. Anyway, good to be here on another Monday. Again, the Bitcoin Tech Talk newsletter is something that you can subscribe to. Here is the current issue, which is issue number 159. It went out this morning. It is all about Bitcoin, Lightning, and some other stuff. So before I get to that, let's remind everybody. I do have some scholarships available for the programming blockchain seminar in San Francisco, November 5th and 6th. You can apply right here. You can get in for free. Right, like that's got to be something that will be useful to some of you if you can't afford it. Otherwise, you can just apply as normal and get in that way. Another thing, my programming Bitcoin book is available on Amazon. I think they raised it about 50 cents, so now it's like $41. It was like $40.50 before. Anyway, it's something that you can read to understand Bitcoin a lot better and like sort of start coding Bitcoin protocol stuff from scratch. Also have the Little Bitcoin book, which now has 37 ratings, which is great. I don't think I even saw the latest ones, and I do like to mark them helpful. Please do so. By the way, please pound the like button and subscribe if you aren't. It does help the channel and so on. Um, anyway, yeah, this is a book that we are currently in the process of translating into Spanish, Portuguese, Chinese, Japanese, Korean, Arabic, Turkish, and French and German and some other languages. So, it's a great book to give sort of as an intro to Bitcoin, especially for people that don't know anything about it. I've been handing a lot of these out. I'll definitely have some in Spanish and Portuguese for La BitConf that's coming up in December if you are in that area of the world. All right. So let's. Those are some things I wanted to show, but yeah, let's get to the actual stories. Some interesting stories this week. A lot from Casa and Unchained Capital, as a matter of fact. Anyway, this is the first story. Unchained Capital, Parker Lewis. He's had a fantastic series on Bitcoin called Gradually Then Suddenly, and it's a lot of different ways to look at Bitcoin, and he comes from an economics background, so he knows a lot about the Fed and their open market operations, and he knows a lot about Austrian economics, so he goes into a lot of Austrian theory and stuff like that. But this is an excellent article about why Bitcoin really isn't a pyramid scheme. Now, that's kind of a catchy title, but really, most of this article is about the monetary policy of Bitcoin and how it's set in stone, the 21 million limit, if you will, the thing that makes it super scarce. And that is really, really valuable. I would encourage you guys to read this thing. It's an excellent article. Parker's done a great job. Please take a look if you are interested in that sort of thing. Second article is Bitcoin is good for the environment. Now, I don't know who this person is, but I guess Mark Nair. But it's an interesting way of viewing the energy usage of Bitcoin because it's really more about how it enables a lot of renewable energies. Because the production and consumption can happen essentially right away with Bitcoin mining, whereas that sort of coincidence of wants of energy tends to be more difficult when, even in a large market like energy, because oftentimes you're producing when there's no real demand and so on. So this is an excellent article. Would encourage you to read it as well. All right, let's close this one and go to the next one. Fork monitor detects unexpected inflation. So BitMEX Research put out this article. Essentially, they run fork monitor and it gets you sort of a detection of certain things, and it's an interesting upgrade that they've made in that they now have a way of knowing whenever there's like money printed on any of these on any of the software, which one's sort of out of sync with the others with unexpected inflation. Expected inflation, of course, is the 12 and a half Bitcoins currently being generated every 10 minutes. But if it's any more than that, this thing will detect it. And especially, based on the inflation bug from 2018, this sort of monitoring is pretty critical. And it's a very good idea. I would love to see more sites like this happen other than just BitMEX, but good on them for making it. All right, Casa Covenant. So they now have Bitcoin Inheritance Service and Protocol. Basically, they're trying to solve the problem of crypto inheritance, and that is kind of a big problem because there's a lot of people that have a lot of Bitcoin. What are you going to do with it? How's it going to be managed once you die? And what if the private key dies with you, and so on. So it's something for you to think about. I think they have a pretty good solution. You should definitely take a look at it. All right, some lightning news. This is fresh off of the Lightning conference in Berlin. Essentially, Electrum has decided to start supporting Lightning in their client, which is of course excellent. And they have a demo with watchtowers and everything else. But it should definitely come into Electrum fairly quickly, and that in itself is really exciting. And I can't imagine, Electrum is a popular desktop wallet, especially for multi-sig. So doing this sort of thing makes a lot of sense for them. Very exciting stuff. Now this is not really a story per se, but this is something that a developer put into lapps.co, and it's this Lightning auth button right here. Log in with your Lightning wallet. So instead of logging in with your Twitter account, you can log in with that. And essentially, you generate a Lightning payment request for 1 Satoshi, and then they'll pay you the 1 Satoshi. But now you've logged in without, sort of having to fill out a sign up form. All you have is sort of whatever your Lightning node wants to let the other Lightning node know. And it's a really interesting idea of allowing people to log in sort of a decentralized manner. You have a channel open or something like that. Well, I guess it can use another route or something. But essentially, it knows that you're a node on the network, and by doing that, you can log into this and have an account there and so on, which is really cool. But very, very cool, sort of innovative way of using Lightning. All right, LND announced 0.8 beta, and funny enough, this is the thing that made, I think, Nicolas Dorier quit LND. But it's got some really interesting improvements. I think some of the database stuff is not backwards compatible, which is why Nicolas Dorier quit. But yeah, it's an excellent release. You should definitely upgrade. And the actual upgrade is in the next link, which tells you about the database migration that you need to do and all that other stuff. So good stuff. Lot of release notes here. Multi-frame TLV based Onion. SAFU commitments, TLV serialization library, Bolt 11 feature bits, indefinite channel reestablishment, chain notifier, this like a horde of really good stuff that's involved in the latest release. All right, and the last set of stories are about Shamir. So Casa wrote this blog post about the shortcomings of Shamir. And if you don't know about Shamir secret sharing, it's essentially a way to break up a private key into multiple components. And it uses the coefficients of a large polynomial, and then you can have m of n of those pieces in order to reconstruct the actual private key. But yeah, it's a really interesting way to make it work. But they have some very good reasons, and Jameson Locke goes through about why you really shouldn't use Shamir. It's, first of all, I guess, pretty complex. And this is a quote from Greg Maxwell. There's no real standard implementation of Shamir. And it's there is a proposal with Satoshi Labs improvement proposal, SLIP 39, which we'll get to in a minute. And then, there's poor auditability, social recovery complexities, and inability to verify share integrity, side channel attacks, blah, blah, blah. But, if you read the conclusion, there may yet be some practical application of SSS for securing Bitcoin keys where SSS portion is playing a small role in a more complete system. So I think there's definitely something there. There is Schnorr's threshold, I think, which is a little more promising and more verifiable and so on, and takes care of a lot of that. But that's for another day. And the other thing related to this is an Unchained Capital blog, which is the SLIP 39, and essentially it's a new standard for Shamir backup, and it's a way to do it. And it seems a little bit contradictory to the Casa blog post, and there might be a little bit of a rivalry there between Unchained Capital and Casa. I'm not sure, but I mean, read the conclusions, and they more or less say similar things. If you're an individual looking for the best way to store and protect the physical backup your wallet's private keys, and you include theft or loss in your threat model, then Shamir Backup is your best bet to counteract the possibility of losing access to your cryptocurrency. So it's a very limited sort of way of looking at Shamir, and which is essentially what Casa was talking about. And the SLIP 39 spec is right here, and this is written in the Bitcoin improvement proposal style with all of the Shamir secret sharing and all this other stuff, and where they are, and how to share the mnemonics, and essentially you get a bunch of words out of it, which is great. So with the padded and everything else, and you give the shares to the right people and so on. So pretty good stuff. I mean, I like that the standard is out there. We'll see if the market likes it as much as the people that wrote it. Anyway, that's it for Bitcoin Tech Talk, the newsletter. Let me take a look at some questions, and then we'll go on to the tweets. Jimmy, when will you announce the winners for the scholarship of your Bitcoin course? I think generally I do it about a week to a week and a half before the actual seminar happens. So November 5th. So about a week before that, October 27th, 28th, somewhere around there. So it'll be about a week from now, maybe a little later than that, or a little earlier, but somewhere around there. I guess that's the only question right now. So excuse me. It is allergy season over here. So let's take a look at some of the tweets I wrote, and hopefully I can explain some of them to you if you haven't been keeping up. All right, most people seek to get lucky, which is to have an advantage over others without earning it. Bitcoin fixes this. And all right, so let me put that up in the So this was the tweet right here. Most people seek to get lucky, which is, oh gosh, I hate these tweets. I always have to block them or whatever. Which is to have an advantage over others without earning it. And a lot of people say I'd rather be lucky than good, and to some degree that's correct. But in the sense that you're going to probably make way more. That's not necessarily the best way, and that's not necessarily the path to joy or happiness or fulfillment or actualization or anything. If you're just lucky, think lottery winner. Most of those people actually end up really miserable. They don't end up doing very good things with the money, or they run out of it too quickly and they lose a lot of discipline and so on. So seeking to get lucky is the wrong path. Seeking to get good at something and have some marketable good or service that you can give to society and get paid for it, that's the right way, and that's much more fulfilling. That's a lot more self-actualizing and so on. And that was the point of that tweet. All right, let's take a look at the next one. Jobs suck because everyone is constantly angling for a better one. There's no soul in the game there. Starting a business or even working for a startup is so much more fulfilling. And I say that because it's important to realize, like, like when you're in a job per se, right? Like when you're in something where people are, like paying you to do a particular role, like you're kind of a cog in a machine. It's kind of sucky because pretty much everyone is angling for either a promotion or a better job somewhere else, or maybe they've been there a while, in which case they're pretty much static. The real problem isn't necessarily that they're going to move on. It's just that there's no soul in the game, right? There's no real like investment in the thing, and that makes it kind of sucky. Starting a business, on the other hand, or working at a startup, especially if you're early, tends to be much more fulfilling for that reason. It gives you that sense of I'm in this with these other people, and this is something that we have to get done no matter what. Whereas with a job, it's just like, I need to get this thing done, and you want to keep your job, but there's most people like do the minimum unless they're angling for something better, in which case, that's supposed to be motivating, but it's not really soul in the game per se. It's just sort of, let's see how I can politically manipulate things so that I come out ahead. So that's why jobs suck. That's why I wrote that tweet. Here's another one. Fiat economy is built almost entirely on long-term debt. When it collapses, it will collapse very suddenly. Bitcoin users affected, but much better off. The usual meme there is Bitcoin user unaffected. I think that's stretching it with something like if the entire fiat economy collapses, of course we'll all feel it. But this is the thing about anything that collapses is the problems tend to go exponential. So. You might have a very small amount. But right before it like kind of explodes. This is essentially the gradually then suddenly thesis, which is that like when problems sort of accumulate, they reach kind of a critical threshold, and then things just happen really, really quickly. And that's my view on the fiat economy. So much of it is debt based, and so much of it is going to cause a lot of sadness going forward. So, yeah. Anger about a dip is temporary. Joy about a real understanding of money is permanent. And this one's more self-explanatory. But a lot of people get angry at these dips, and it's like, dude, that's not going to do anything. It's not going to make the price go up just because you're angry about it. Be a little more stoic about this stuff. You don't need to. Like have such a terrible, attitude about what's going on. So, just something to think about. And I do want to add myself to this so you guys can see me. So sorry about that. Anyway, that is that's something I wanted to point out. I blame celebrity culture for making altcoin founders and their coins popular. I blame fiat money for celebrity culture. Bitcoin fixes this. Now, I'm saying this because honestly, like the most popular Twitter follower or Twitter personalities on crypto Twitter, they're all altcoin founders, right? Like I think Charlie Lee, Vitalik Buterin, and Justin Sun, and people like that. They have tons and tons of followers, and that indicates to me that there's something of a celebrity culture about that. They think that by following them, they get access to some insight or something like that. But there is definitely a celebrity culture that is in most of the world, and it's this desire to I don't know, connect with somebody, and like identify with them in some way or something like that. And this is very important in any sort of fiat money, because when you align with somebody, then you get some of the benefits, right? Like if you're aligning as a Democrat or a Republican or something like that, part of that is in sort of revering somebody in that realm, or admiring something, and that's where you get a lot of the opinions of that. And this is something that I'm seeing in a lot of altcoins, is that they if you're part of Ethereum, you kind of have to swallow the entire thing whole hog. It seems like you have to be into unicorns or rainbows and I don't know, dance or something. It's kind of weird in that way, but that's part of sort of second and third order effects of fiat money, and I consider Ethereum a fiat money. So that it kind of makes sense that way. But Bitcoin fixes this, because there is it's sort of a base layer. You don't align yourself based on Bitcoin necessarily. It's something that will change the whole celebrity culture, because it won't necessarily be celebrities. It'll be people that get stuff done, right? Like it isn't about the people in power per se. All right, let's take a look at the next tweet. Yeah, I had a fun economics interview with Eric Savitz. If you haven't looked at it, please take a look. Nobody needs you to defend Bitcoin. Bitcoin will defend itself, or more accurately, economic reality will provide plenty of defense for Bitcoin in due time. So this is the big thing about Bitcoin. A lot of people sort of like feel the need to defend Bitcoin's honor as if it's like a damsel in distress or something like that. You don't need to do that, right? Like there's plenty of people criticizing Bitcoin, and they're, I think, for the most part, mistaken. But you don't need to go and like pick a fight with them. Like Bitcoin will show all of them that they're wrong eventually anyway. And if you're playing the long game, just kind of need to wait for it, and that'll be enough. Okay, let's see. Energy use is the force that keeps Bitcoin's limit at 21 million. Lack of real cost is what allows fiat money to expand indefinitely. You can have hard, scarce money or easy expanding money. Easy, scarce money doesn't exist. I was trying to make the point with that last one. You can have hard, scarce money or easy expanding money. Easy, scarce money doesn't exist, which is really a criticism against pretty much every altcoin that's trying to make easy, scarce money. Doesn't exist. You can't do it. It's impossible. And anyone that tells you otherwise just is not really understanding the metaphysical reality, which is that if there's somebody, if it's easy, it's centralized. And if it's scarce, it's decentralized. You can't have something that's centralized and decentralized at the same time. It is essentially a square circle. Now, the rest of the tweet, people were quibbling about it. Isn't necessarily the energy use that's keeping it at 21 million. Yeah, I get that. It's more the coordination and the fact that everyone's master of their own node and so on. I was just trying to make a clever point in a weird way, and that's kind of what got me burned on this one. All right, let's look at this one. Existing merchants already have some costs in the current monetary system and thus don't have much motive to take Bitcoin. New merchants will soon realize that taking Bitcoin for payments can reduce their burden of regulatory compliance. When 2 greater than 1 will go to the moon. Now, this is more of a method of payment tweet, and I usually talk more about store of value and so on. But this is something that Bitcoin has as an advantage over non-Bitcoin stuff. Against fiat money, which is that there is a regulatory burden to kind of opening any fiat business. And this is how the government sort of controls businesses, is through the monetary aspect of it. You can't open a bank account if the government frowns on something. If you want to know why that's true, just go ask any cannabis grower in Colorado. They can't open a bank account because the federal government doesn't like it. So they basically have warned all the banks. So what do they do? Well, they can run a cash business, but that's not very safe. And I guess they can have how are they going to pay their bills and so on. It becomes very, very difficult to act in the monetary system if the authorities in that monetary system sort of frown on it. And that's the one advantage that Bitcoin has in terms of method of payment, is that for new businesses starting, they don't necessarily have to work within the regulatory framework. And I've noticed this with a few vendors. I don't know if any of you guys know about helmintic therapy, but it's it's a way to get rid of certain allergies by swallowing some type of inert hookworm or something like that. And essentially, it's something that a lot of people kind of swear by for curing Crohn's disease and other things. It's sort of like introducing a particular type of parasite, so your body uses that as a way to defend against some of this other autoimmune diseases and so on. Now, I don't know the merits of it necessarily, but what I did notice is that, like, I studied this back in like 2005, and I noticed that like there were no vendors in the United States because the FDA had ruled that it was a drug, even though it's like actually a biological organism or whatever. I just sort of like casually looked at it like a year ago, and I found that those people take Bitcoin. Why? Well, because they want to sell their goods and services, but because of the regulatory scrutiny, they can't really open up a bank account, can't use PayPal, they can't use any of the current monetary systems. So what do? They take Bitcoin. And what was interesting about that website was they had a whole explanation about how to get Bitcoin in order to pay them. Now, like, that's kind of a fringe thing, but there's enough of that stuff out there, I imagine, that as government regulation becomes more and more burdensome, there will be merchants that will pretty much be forced to take only Bitcoin, and like go that way. And I hadn't really considered that as a motivator for bringing more merchants into that realm. Now, are these going to compete with the giant businesses that get like 1% loans and stuff? Probably not. But there are enough things at the edge where this might drive some adoption, is all I'm saying in this tweet. All right, let's take a look at this tweet. List of coins that fell from grace: Namecoin, Freightcoin, Peercoin, Novacoin, Feathercoin, Mastercoin, MadeSafeCoin, Factom, Next, BitShares. List of coins that have fared better: Litecoin, XRP, Dash, Stellar, Ethereum. The thing that I noticed is that most of the above, like, basically no one's working on them, or if they are, it's they're working off the money that they raised a while back and so on. The coins that have fared better, they still might not be doing very much, but they've marketed the hell out of their coin. Marketed the hell out of it, right? Like, I mean, it's instructive to me that, like whenever Charlie talks about the beginning of Litecoin, he's like, well, the big thing was we had a really good slogan, silver to Bitcoin's gold. And, they had, enough minor improvements that, they were able to market it properly and so on. And, same thing with XRP. They've been giving away a lot of it. Stellar, similar. Dash, like, sponsored pretty much anybody that would take their money. And Ethereum, oh my goodness, Ethereum. I mean, the amount of marketing dollars that goes into, whatever, conferences that they're holding and all this kind of crazy stuff that they do. That's essentially the life of an altcoin, is they need a lot of centralized marketing in order to make it all sort of work. And that was the big, I guess, aha from that one. Fiat money is free as in beer money, designed to enslave through control over resources. Bitcoin is free as in speech money, designed to give people real self-sovereignty. The thing about anything that's given freely from a central authority, it's really a tool of enslavement because you become dependent on it, you feel entitled to it. But the other part of the contract is it's not really free per se because they're not giving it to you no strings attached. There are always strings attached. They expect you to do at the very least, be a good citizen or something like that. And that in itself is a method of control. And I've talked about this in other videos. But essentially, by doing that, they exert control over your spending and lots of other stuff as a way to control you. You're just not paying with money; you're paying with something else. Your compliance, essentially. Bitcoin is free as in speech money. This means that you have the right. The rights are yours instead of you're being given something and paying in some other way other than money. So that's real self-sovereignty, whereas the other one is a tool of enslavement. All right. Someday we'll be referring to the pass by block numbers. I thought that would be something that might happen eventually. All right. If I think this was one of my most popular tweets this week. If power is the priority, start a shitcoin. Money is the priority, start a shitcoin. Fame is the priority, start a shitcoin. If peacefully changing the world for good is the priority, hodl Bitcoin. And this is something that I've noticed about altcoin founders is that they have a lot of money, power, and fame, but really they've kind of lost their soul, right? And that's kind of the sad reality is that you might have all of those things, money, power, and fame. But if you've lost your soul, have you really gained anything? And that's the thing. Like if you want to peacefully change the world for good, if you want to do that, hodl Bitcoin, and the money will come. If you want more power, that's something that may come. Fame is something that you can also go for. But that's something that you should definitely think about. All right, what's your primary OS? That's, I do a Sunday survey every week. Mac OS versus Windows. They were very close. Other, popular ones were like OpenBSD, Chrome, and some others. But yeah, it was, surprising to me how many people were using Windows, I guess. Fiat money is not really property. All fiat money is just value rented from the central bank. That value can be taken back or seized at any time for any reason. Bitcoin fixes this. So fiat money, in essence, is can be seized away from you, and in that sense, you're really kind of borrowing it. You don't really own it. It's not really a property right, and that's as true of fiat money as real estate or stocks or pretty much almost anything physical. It's something that can be taken away from you very easily or confiscated away from you. You don't really own it. Bitcoin is very different in the sense that you really do own it. If you know the private key, that's yours. And no one can tell you different, or no one can seize it away without... if you have it on a physical device, obviously they can take that away and so on. But at least in principle, it's very different. And that was the point of the tweet there. All right, and the last one that I tweeted this morning is most marketing experts that come into crypto end up working for some scam soon after. This is because Bitcoin doesn't need them, but shitcoins do. Soon after, the mental gymnastics required to justify their existence twists them and corrupts them beyond redemption. Yeah, so I think Max Kaiser calls this the Bitcoin derangement syndrome, where a lot of people just sort of go crazy. And it's probably from all the mental gymnastics that they have to do for justifying why they are in a particular altcoin. And I've seen this happen. It's not really good for your mental health to sort of twist yourself in knots and go against something that, your soul knows is unethical. But this unfortunately happens to a lot of marketing experts. And, they're very good at marketing, right? That's why they're marketing experts. But Bitcoin doesn't need their marketing. It's the hardest money, and that will speak for itself over time. And that's the big thing that a lot of marketing experts miss. And I count people like Roger Ver among them. And it's kind of a sad reality. All right, so I think that's the last one, last tweet. Let me see if there are any more questions. There's a ton more comments. Huro Coin or Cian? I have no idea what you're. Okay, there's some guy trying to spam my channel. All right, Satoshi Bear, elaborate firing squad. Okay, yeah, I guess there really wasn't any other question. All right, so let me just show a couple things again. The programming blockchain seminar in San Francisco. Please apply for the scholarship if you are interested. I really don't have that many people applying right now. So you have a very good chance if you apply. Programming Bitcoin, on Amazon, this is $40.99. Little Bitcoin book, it's $8.88 right now. I think we're raising the price fairly soon, so get it before it's too late. Anyway, that was about it. Thank you guys for showing up and hanging out and talking about all this stuff. Appreciate all of you, and just keep doing what you need to do. Thanks for watching, and this song is done.